Staying on the subject of schools, this is a story from today's Times. Make GCSE harder, exam boards told. We've heard endless stuff about the dumbing down.
Spell your name correctly, things like that. Which
well,
way's up?
Finally, it seems like the exam boards or the exam watchdogs are listening. Off-qual, which is like Ofcom and Ofsted and off everything. Anyway, it looks at qualifications, obviously, and it's saying that actually the new science, the single science GCSE is too easy because they tried to make it more accessible, which is always worrying when they say accessible, isn't it? And they have got to make it harder because obviously the reputation of the exam is suffering. Moving on to... more on schools. School to be graded on discipline. Ed Balls has come up with yet another idea of how to grade schools. Again, now, as we established earlier in the week when we had our Yo Sushi guy on, I am one of the people who do actually read school league tables because I've got kids of that age. Now, when I read school league tables, they give you loads of information. There's value added. I have no idea what any of this means. All I want to know is how many GCSEs do they get? That's all I ever look at. And so that's the line I look at because it's like this, it's so much. In fact, when you've got 21 types of mayonnaise in the supermarket, you just want to know how much is the Hellmann's. You know what I mean? That's what you want. So you just think, OK, so I'll just... So now he wants to add discipline as yet another thing that you can... And he's talking about how parents want to know about discipline and they want to know about how good the sport is. Yes, you go and see the school to talk to the head and to see the kids and to try and get your own idea on those things. But actually, when I read a league table, I just want to know what the exam results are because I can't cope with any other information. So I think he's fooling himself.
That's what's wrong with the league tables.
Yes.
Is that it shouldn't just be about what O-levels or...
But either they provide the information or they don't. And if they provide the information, that's how we're going to use it. And then don't they abolish them. Don't abolish them.
I'm convinced there are schools out there which have better records academically but are producing worse adults into the world, and there are others which, well, maybe the academic record isn't quite so good, but that people might come out as more rounded individuals, and I'd rather not have the league tables.
That's a hopeful view. You haven't got kids, have you?
I haven't, but I have a friend who was a peripatetic psychologist who travelled around all the schools in her area, and she was the person who... That's kind of where this received opinion comes from, because she was seeing these different schools, and her job was about psychology, and she came away saying... She now has children, and she's ignoring those league tables because she has this insight into it.
As a parent, and not a psychologist who just wants the best for my kids...
Well, she is also a parent.
OK, but she's also got a professional interest in a theoretical idea of a healthy individual. I just want my kids to get a job, right? And I do go and look at primary schools, not secondary yet. And you can tell a great deal about the culture of a school when you actually go and talk to the headmaster or the headmistress and you look at the school. And there is a very strong correlation between schools that have good, SATs results and when you go and see the kids are well behaved. Quite clear when you go to some schools and there's a sense of chaos that they're also going to have bad results.
We must move on. We're going to run out of time.
Moving on to children do best when their parents are strict. This is an interesting, it's a new government report, and there's this idea called
what
good enough. What do you mean
by best here, though? Best academically? Happiest people that have strict parents? And what does best mean?
They say likely to do kind of a combination of do best academically, do best in life is what they're saying.
Okay.
But it's this
idea...
Doesn't
mean they're happy, though, does it?
There's this idea of good enough parenting, which is, I'd not heard this, which is this idea that you just do your best and that's good enough. And what this report is saying is actually good enough is not good enough, because if you do just good enough, you've got a hectic life...
Good enough is not good enough, but if you just do good enough...
If you have a very hectic life and you do a bit of homework and you manage to, do a bit of parenting, actually your children will suffer. And what they're saying is that as a parent, to have successful and happy children, you actually have to work quite hard as a parent.
OK, yeah, that makes sense.
Well, that's good enough for me.
One last one from you, Larry.
Very quickly, a very bizarre story. John Terry's mum arrested for shoplifting on the front of the Sun. Not just John Terry's mum and his mother-in-law were cautioned in Weybridge. They were loading stuff into the car in Weybridge, and Tesco and Marks and Spencer. Well, he's on 135 grand a week apparently.
Doesn't really give them
they deny that anything untoward went on. By accepting the caution, they were taken to the police station and everything. By accepting the caution, apparently they accept their guilt. That their lawyer says they didn't understand that, and that it was all a big mistake, and we will see.
OK. Bizarre. David.
Credit crunch blame blue-eyed white people. Gordon Brown was forced to listen as Brazil President Lula declared, he's only got one name, Lula declared the credit crunch was the fault of white blue-eyed people yesterday. It sounds like Monty Python to me, doesn't it?
It does, yes.
White blue-eyed people are responsible for the credit crunch.
About right, though, isn't he?
Well, they said there's no mixed-race bankers and etc., at the head of these institutions, whatever.
There were quite a few. But not
Is
many.
there?
Yeah.
Only one
right.
foot.
Well, he got it wrong then.
Chief Exec, isn't it?
Wow.
Just one.
Okay. And do you know what? We're going to borrow. We've never borrowed so much in 306 years as we're about to borrow over the next 2 years. We're about to borrow combined 351 billion.
That's on top of what we've already borrowed, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. And that'll be by 2011. So I don't know where to get this money from. Oh, they print it, don't they?
Well, this is the problem. They print it, they try and sell bonds, but nobody's buying the bonds.
Because we're all holding back.
So it does beg the question whether the money that they say they're borrowing, they can actually provide.
Well,
If you think about it for any longer than about 4 seconds, it's terrifying.
Yes.
So just don't think about it, folks. Trust your leaders.
now remember we spoke about the postie during the week who said he was Sri Lankan and actually who wouldn't serve his customers who couldn't speak English. Well, he got laid off and now he's been fired.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and the thing is, he has an awful lot of support from the British public, this
Yeah.
chap. And so it seems a bit over the top, really, to sack him completely. He's got children to, to bring up, and he needs a job to,
So next time you're in a foreign country and you're struggling to get something done at a shop or something like that, I hope you'll just forgive them when they just say, clear off, I'm not speaking to you unless you speak the language.
Well, if you go to Wales, as you said, you have that
I've-
quite often, don't you? If you
I
if you
just
can't
love
speak
Wales,
Welsh.
so I just want to make that absolutely
I'm glad
clear.
you do. I'm glad you do.
I do.
And
I love
finally,
it.
on a lighter one, a guy has got a pub, a historic pub, was given an overnight makeover. When the landlord came back to the pub the following morning, it was painted pink. It had been historically, there it is, yeah, historically a Tudor, whatever, I think, listed building.
Bizarre thing for someone. Is that you, Dave?
And it was white.
No, nothing to do with me.
They've sent the bill, but of course they haven't put their name on it. And so they've charged him for it, and it's pink. He's woke up with a pink pub. Maybe he wants the pink pound, I don't know. He maybe upset somebody. Maybe upset...
Well, upset someone so they turn up in the middle of the night and painted his house.
Well, what's
I wish
it all
I could
about?
upset somoone and they'd do that
That
for
was
me.
my final one.
Thanks, guys.
Has Lawrence Llewellyn-Bowen been seen in the area?
OK, after the ads, we're asking at what point is a woman too drunk to give consent to sex? When she's unconscious, certainly. What, though, if she appears willing at the time but remembers nothing about it the next day? Was she too drunk to consent? 0207 173 5555 is the number for your thoughts. Do you, women here, do you have to take some responsibility for your actions when you're blotto? What if both the man and the woman are so drunk neither remembers what happened the night before? Could he, should he still be accused of rape? We'll have your thoughts on this after the break.
What percentage of people think a woman is to blame if she is raped while drunk? Is it 18, 28 or 48? Find out the answer after the break.